Have you ever wondered how pros land skill shots like it's nothing? It's not luck, it's not magic, it's pattern recognition. Because movement isn't random, it's predictable. I hit challenger many champs fully reliant on hitting skill shots. And these are my 7 best tips to land skill shots like a pro by not only predicting the enemy movement, but also manipulating it. So strap up guys, because some of these tips, especially number 3, will blow your mind. To lay the groundwork, let's start with getting some boring skill shot fundamentals out of the way very quickly before we move into the real juice. So hitting skill shots is all about creating the right conditions to have the highest percentage to land your ability. And the cleanest way to do that is of course upon previous CC setup. In this example, I got of course the Vi Ari combination, Vi point and click ults the Xayah, I charm the Xayah. Very easy way to do it. Another way is to get closer towards the enemies. The closer you are, the harder it is for them to dodge your skill shot. In this case, I got very close towards the Xayah, so it was really hard for her to dodge my charm. And another thing that we can do is Fog of War. When we come from Fog of War, the enemies don't see us coming, so they don't have their mental stack primed upon us throwing our skill shot, which means that it's very hard for them to dodge as long as we just aim on top of their face. So by understanding we want to be creating the best possible conditions for our skill shots to land, the highest percentage way to do that is by, of course, timing our abilities with the enemy's last hits. Number 1, their mental stack is overwhelmed with last hitting the minion, plus they need to stand still, which makes it very easy for you to land your skill shots to do so. So in this particular situation, that minion was dying, and that means that I had a very easy time landing my abilities upon the Akshan. Now this next minion, it's dying real soon, he needs to walk up, I land my skill shots upon the Akshan. Very, very easy. Let's take a look at the next minion that's dying. Okay, I didn't have a cooldown on that one. That one's the next one dying. Q while he's standing still and auto-attacking. It's very clean, consistent, and precise. So we can abuse this concept to also do it in other situations. So whenever you're trading, especially in the early game, you're usually trading a lot of auto-attacks. So you want to throw your ability at the timer of the enemy auto-attacks. In this game, I'm playing versus our good friend Shock right here, and you see that he's playing as here, an auto-attack oriented champ. He's auto-attacking me, and on his second auto-attack timer, that's the time when I throw my Q to eventually win the trade. So now that we understand that we need to time our abilities with the enemy's last hits, a lot of people can actually recognize that. But what they struggle with is putting themselves in the right position to also punish them. So in this situation, we know that we're going to be punishing Akshan on this minion right here. So I got to make sure that I am in my ability range whenever he gets in his auto attack range of this minion. So this is the range that he needs to auto attack this minion. And for me to land him in this range, I need to stand in about this range right here. So these are the imaginary lines that you need to draw to get yourself in the right position to make sure that you can actually land your abilities on top of him. So you see that I'm walking forward, and that allows me to actually punish him onto the last hit whenever he's hitting it. So this ties in directly towards the second concept that I want to be sharing with you guys, which is understanding how space in the lane works and how you can abuse it. So we got to slow down and zoom out a little bit. What do I mean with space in the lane? Well, you've all heard of spacing, right? This is very similar, but now in the terms of mages. Very simply put, right? If you are first in the area and the enemies need to click into you, so they need to retake space, what will happen is that your abilities have longer range than theirs. Because while you're casting and while it's throwing out, if they're clicking into you, that means that you can basically already throw it from this particular position and they will never be able to hit you, because while they're throwing their skill shot, you can run away. So if they are running into you, your skill shots have longer range. So controlling space in the lane and getting space in the lane is very powerful for skill shot oriented champions. And you'll see it here. What I do versus Vladimir is I intentionally take up space very heavily, making it impossible for him to come back in, because if he tries and tries to get the minions, what's going to happen is that he needs to fight for his space. So I want you guys to understand that this is the next minion that he needs to CS. So by me standing right here, he now needs to first of all retake all of this space into me, and then stand still stationary to land this creep. So we're going to be combining a lot of concept most of the time, right? So this puts him in a position where it's practically impossible for him to dodge the skill shot, because the only way that he can ever hit this cannon is by being right here, right now, queuing it. That's the only way he's ever going to get it. So either he's going to dodge my skill shot and lose the cannon, which is a win, or he's going to get hit by the skill shot and yeah, get the cannon. In this case, I think he also missed it, so it's a lose-lose for him. And we're going to see multiple examples of retaking space. You see that I'm super aggressively standing right here. So for the enemies to get even close towards me, they have to retake space, which means they have to click into you. Your abilities get higher range, and it's also harder for them to actually get closer to watch you because they have to swap up their movements, and it's a very, very neat battle. So in this case, I'm actually playing versus Humanoid, this Silas. We're going to see this example a lot more. So you see that for him to get this minion, he needs to take up still all of this space here in the lane. So I just use my skill shot in a way to block him from getting the minion, which is a win for me. He lost the creep, I missed my skill shot, no problem, we take those. And we got another example coming up right here, which that we're going to be actually playing against a Nico, hidden up against Corki. So this is the next minion that he needs to last hit. Look where I'm going to be standing. I'm going to be aggressively standing a little bit closer, a little bit deeper to make it hard for him to retake space. If I'm standing right here, then he can just walk up and he can be in this exact line somewhere to easily last hit this minion. But since I'm standing right here, he first needs to retake all of this space without getting hit by my ability, without having his linear movement, because otherwise he's going to get hit by an ability anyway. And that's why space and the retaking of space is so important as a concept to understand, to have better skill shot accuracy. So if you want to learn how to master concepts like these and become the best player in your friend group, check out the link in the description. Once you click the link and you join the program, you can instantly join a coaching session that day, or you can shoot me a DM in which that will then work on creating your personalized improvement process. See you guys there. So the third concept right here, this is where it's going to get fucking exciting. We're going to be talking about manipulating enemy movement and the psychology behind manipulating their movement. So we're going to start with creating and breaking patterns. And I'm playing versus Humanoid right here on Silas, so this is a very serious opponent that I'm playing versus. And what I'm trying to do is I'm initially trying to create a pattern of trying to time my abilities with the enemy's last hit. So right here we got the cannon dying, I throw my W, he dodges away from it. That's no problem. We see that a new minion is dying right here in the center. He's walking up. I'm using my Q when he's trying to retake space. Very linear, straightforward ability usage right here. Trying to time my abilities with his last hits. Very, just classic. That one as well. Throwing my Q whenever he's walking up for the CS. And now, after I recognize that he is doing that, I'm going to swap up my movement. So the first time forward, I click forward right there. So I have my pattern of constantly timing my abilities with the last hits. And right here, I didn't throw an ability up on that last hit because he was not attempting to go for it. So what I do now instead is I recognize, hey, I can now click forward and he's not going to expect it because I've constantly been sitting backwards, only timing my abilities with this last hit. So he's constantly tethering me barely outside of my Q range. So what I do for the first time in the past few seconds, I actually click forward and I'm going to now randomly Q him. So just out of the blue. No reason for me to Q him. No last hits. Pure skill check. But I'm breaking my patterns, which means that he gets caught off guard by it. And therefore I can land my skill shot. This also happens under the tower. So I've been mainly timing my abilities onto his last hits. And I've also mainly went for QE abilities all of the time. So random QEs. To try to hit him with my ability combos. Now you can also swap up your ability pattern. So you see that Q, I time it with the last hit. And what I do right now is I actually go, instead of a QE, I go for WE fast stun into Q combination to kill him. So this was completely out of his scope. The only reason that he stayed on low HP because he was confident he could either flash or E my QE combination on Zindar because he knows the Qs to look out for. But because I swap up the ability pattern, he actually got overwhelmed in his mental stack. He didn't anticipate it. And that's why I can actually catch him off guard and kill him and dive him in the tower. This is also what you can do whenever you want to deny the enemy skill shots. So in this situation, just look at how I'm playing Ahri. I'm just hitting the minion, walking back, walking forward. Hitting the minion, walking back, walking forward. And the one time that the minion is actually dying, I'm doing the exact same pattern, but I don't commit to it. I break my pattern, baiting out the enemy skill shot. It also goes the other way around. So take a look at how I'm moving as Ahri. Constantly back, forward. It's the exact same rhythm, the exact same pattern. That incentivizes her to throw her out her skill shot because she thinks I'm going to out-attack that minion, but I'm actually going to bait it out. It also works the other way around. So this now combines in a concept that is really all about understanding the psychology of the clicks and the psychology of the movement and how you can influence that and manipulate that. So this is the peak laning in League of Legends right here. And what I do right here is I actively recognize that I want to be harassing Aksham real soon upon a minion right here. So I'm going to be wanting him to also be in a position that he's going to be out-attacking the minion. Because if he's going to do that, I'm going to get a massive trade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to influence his patterns with my positioning. And I'm going to basically bait him into getting hit by my skill shots. And this is by different types of movements. So we got to know the concept of spacing, that if you're walking forward, he's got to walk backward. If he walks forward, I got to walk backward. That's the dance that you're doing whenever you're spacing. And you can influence this by putting them on their autopilot, because their autopilot is matching the spacing, especially in high elo. This Akshan's 800 LP, Grandmaster. It's really good player. And what we're going to do is we're going to influence his movement by having specific movement ourselves. So we're going to start off with aggressive posturing. So what I do right here upon this minion that's going to die is I'm going to bump him back, which is also going to instantly get me space up in the lane. So I do aggressive posturing. But instead of me continuously walking forward, I'm now going to do defensive posturing. So what's going to happen when I do defensive posturing, right? I did aggressive posturing, he clicks back. I'm now going to do defensive posturing, so I click back from my end, which is going to allow him to click forward, because he's going to, the brains, the neurons in his brain are going to activate and like, oh, he clicks back, I can click forward and get this minion. So now he just walks face tanks into me and takes this entire combo to the face. This is very interesting how this works, right? I click forwards, he clicks back right here. I click backwards, he clicks forwards, bam, into the skill shot. We call this depth neutral aggro movement. You have to understand is, are you positioning aggressive, are you positioning defensive, or are you positioning neutral? And usually if you position defensive, especially in higher elo, what's going to happen is that the enemies are going to be positioning closer and a little bit more aggressive, because they understand how valuable space in the lane is. The next concept is about understanding how to use terrain to land your skill shots, because terrain is absolutely OP. We're going to start off with understanding what terrain lines are and how we can hit skill shots using terrain lines. So what we see right here is I'm laning up against the Rise. Rise is low. And what you see that I'm doing is you see that there's two terrain lines right here. We're literally going to map it out. I'm going to start with yellow to make it a little bit more visible for you guys right here. So what we see right here is that Rise is now forced to take a decision. Is he going to go that direction or is he going to go that direction? The only way for me to miss my skill shot is to throw it out right now, and before he has chosen a direction. So what's going to happen when he's going to actually take a direction, right? We're going to now map out his, like, of course, his terrain line right here, and also his character model, his hitbox. So this is his hitbox. Now that he's actually made a decision upon what side that he's going from with the line, what happens right here is that any skill shot thrown in this line is going to hit. So all I have to do is wait for him to get from this position where it's dodgeable quite easily for him to change his direction, to choose a direction, because he now cannot dodge in that direction. So the only potential way that he can dodge is down there. But that's impossible because I'm in that exact angle that is almost impossible for him to dodge, because he can only dodge down here, which means he's going to walk in my skill shot because he's going to get trapped up by the terrain. So the terrain is used as a block to hit your skill shots and make it impossible for the enemies to dodge. Very simple. This also works with choke points right here. You see that I'm now playing with the Vladimir right here. And let's draw the terrain lines right now, right? Let's do it in yellow again. What we see is that we draw the terrain lines right here. So basically, this is the line that he's going to be putting himself in. So if I land my skill shot in the middle of this choke point in the terrain line right here, it's going to be very hard for him to dodge it, because he needs to be at the absolute edge to dodge my abilities. So putting enemies in these kind of choke points makes it really hard for them to dodge your abilities and makes it very easy for you to land your skill shots. This also works, of course, with in-fight terrain. This is not only a thing that you can do in lane. You can bump them to the walls, of course, but you can also use in-fight terrain. One of the things that that we see right here in this particular fight is that I very intentionally position myself in such a way that I'm going to be playing up with the in-fight terrain right here. So we're going to be seeing a little bit of a line, a terrain line right here, and right here. These are lines that the enemies need to pass through if they want to escape. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to put myself in a position. I intentionally walk from here to put myself in this terrain line right here to make sure that I have a very easy time landing up my Q and get a very nice high value Q. This also works if you're, for example, right, if Zaya's trying to escape right here, all I have to do is just wait until she's close to the wall and then just throw my charm right there. Terrain is insanely OP if you want to land your skill shots. The next concept is a little bit more about the psychology and the manipulation of the enemy's movements by overloading their mental stack, by actually holding your abilities. A lot of the times the enemies know whenever you got your cooldowns back up and they anticipate you throwing it out. So if you do not throw it out, their brain goes into error mode and they start juking themselves out, and then you get closer to them. And of course, distance matters when it comes to skill shots. So in this situation, Xerath knows I'm going to be landing skill shots on top of him. But what I do is I out attack him first twice. You see that he's kind of dodging himself out, and then I actually wait until he's close to terrain. So I use the combination of these two things to land my skill shot combination on top of him. We've also seen this next example before, which is the Aurora example in the Rise. Look how I don't instantly throw out my abilities. He's kind of juking himself out right here. He's trying to juke it right here. And by juking himself out, I can get closer. Plus, I wait for the terrain line to be in a favorable position for me to easily land my skill shot. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about skill shot lines. And the next concept we're going to be discussing is putting yourself in the angle of the enemy's escape line. So what we're going to be seeing right here is that we got ourselves a nice little fight around the Baron. The enemy's got the Baron, we're going to clean up. So I are over here, and what you see is that the enemies are grouped up right here. So what a lot of people would try to do is they would try to charm right here and then hope it lands. But it's actually not smart, because what is the enemy's escape line, right? That's the escape line. So what we want to try to do is we want to try to put ourselves in a position that we can put ourselves in the enemy's escape line. Why is that so important? Well, what can happen if we throw the skill shot from this position, right? If we throw the skill shot from this position, the enemies can dodge towards their escape line, and that means that they don't lose any time, and they have a very easy time escaping because they lose no time by dodging. So if I put myself in the enemy's escape line, it's going to forcefully, if they want to dodge, force them outside of their escape line to dodge my skill shot. So therefore, if I angle myself up with their escape line of where they want to be going, it's going to be a lot harder for them to dodge because they need to change pathways. So you see that I intentionally are right there, put myself in the exact escape line of the enemies, which means that it's very hard for them to dodge out on my skill shot unless they make a very sharp turn. And that allows us to easily clean up right here in the fight. And another concept that you can use is you can put yourself in line of multiple enemies. We already spotted it right here. If one dodges, the other one can get hit, right? But you also see that in different situations, in which that you can put yourself in a line where if you, for example, if someone flashes your first kill shot, you can still land the second one. So we got a nice little skirmish breaking out right here. And what I'm going to be doing very intentionally is going to be putting myself in a position that I have a really high chance of landing my skill shot. So one thing that I do right here is I redirect my Q, of course, onto the Syndra, and I throw my E in a way that if it lands the Syndra, great. But if it does not land onto the Syndra, it's going to land upon the Jarvan. So by lining the enemies up, you're going to put yourself in a position where you can get insanely high value skill shots. So another important concept that I want to highlight is that you want to sometimes make the enemies feel safe while they're actually not safe. So this goes back into the psychology of it, right? Because if they're not anticipating getting hit by a skill shot, it's the easiest time to hit them, because when they're not anticipating it, they're not going to be dodging it. So what I'm doing right here is I'm going to make this already in Soul feel safe by being on the other side of the lane right now. He's going to feel safe because how am I going to hit him with all of these minions in between here, right? But very specifically, what I'm actually doing is I'm lining him up with the empty room between the minions right here. So what he does is he lines himself up right there, and I actually very easily can hit him for a little bit of a chunk of damage. And after I've used my skill shots, I'm going to be moving up towards the other side of the lane, get closer towards him, and try to fight him for a little bit more all-in potential. You can also use this in team fights, because a lot of times, some enemies are going to feel like they're going to be safe because they got someone body blocking them, or they got someone in front of them, or they don't see an angle that you do see. So in this particular fight right here, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing upon the way. So what I do is I land my charm by dashing past the Alistar, and therefore he doesn't anticipate it, and he's too late at flashing it. So to go a little bit back right here, the way I'm angling this is in such a way is that he does not anticipate me doing this. What I can do is I can, of course, R forward and charm him right there, but he might flash it because he might anticipate me doing that if he sees me R'ing right at this direction. But since I R into the Alistar and get slightly behind him, he now does not really see my charm coming because of the fact that I'm so close to the Alistar and he didn't really feel like he was scared. Of course, the rest of the fight is looking quite sexy, but it's the mindset and it's the psychology behind the skill shot. Make them overwhelmed, make sure that their mental stack is overloaded or focused on something else, and that makes it very hard for them to anticipate and or dodge the skill shot. I hope you guys got an insane amount of value from this video. Check out the link in the description to join the MLA. See you guys real soon for the next video.